Hey everybody, this is going to be a tutorial on rust machining. The good thing is this makes big jobs really quick comparatively, and we'll go both ways. We'll show you what most people are doing and how you can make this a lot quicker. The bad part of it is you have to do this in Aspire. I checked in Pro and Desktop today and it's not available in there, but it is available in Aspire. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a big job, 25 by 40. See from the material surface, single-sided, datum in the center, and just say OK. And what I'm going to do for this, I'm going to come to my clip art, and I'm going to drag the dragon in. I'm going to come back and I'm going to scale that dragon up. So I'm 25 wide, so I'm going to make this 23. So we're 23 inches by almost 31 and a half. Make sure he's good and centered. And that's all I want to do. I just want to carve this dragon in there. So I'm going to come over here. First thing I'm going to do is go to my materials setup and see where he is riding. Okay, now I want a little more of a gap in the top. I'm going to go 0.07. That leaves me. You know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to... He's just a bit too big for me. So I'm going to come into my modeling. I can double click on this or go here. And the shape height. So he's over 1 3/4 inches thick. So let's knock this down to... I'm going to knock it down to 1 1/4. So that's still pretty, that is a pretty deep model. Okay, now I'm going to come over here, I'm going to come back here. And let's make this 0.063. So we'll say we want about a 1/16 of an inch above. That's just to clean off anything on the top that may be there. That leaves me a little over a 1/2 inch on the bottom. And a model thickness of just about 1 1/4. All right, that all looks good. Alright, now I'm going to do a standard roughing, and if I were going to come back on this with an 1/8 inch bit, I'd probably do my roughing with a 1/4 inch bit. You can imagine how long this is going to take being the size that it is with that. So we're going to give it a shot. We've got an end mill, 1/4 inch end mill, and we're looking at conservative 60 inches per minute and a plunge rate of 30. Knock that plunge rate down to 20. Which on a bigger machine, you could bump it up, but depending on the wood, at least at 60, you know it's a kind of a pretty safe conservative speed. I'm going to plunge it in over 1 inch. We'll just call it 3D roughing 1. Now I'm going to hit calculate. This is going to take a while, so I'll probably speed it up in post when I edit the video. So I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, now here we are, and as you can see, we've got some pretty heavy-duty toolpath going on there. And we're going to preview this. I'm not going to animate it. And again, I'm going to click to preview this, and I will probably just speed it up during editing so that you don't have to wait for everything. And I'll be back to you when it's all done. Okay, so we're back now, and let's roll this up. And you can see how we got our dragon going there for his roughing cut. Alright, now if I just hover over this, it's going to tell me that took 17, estimate of time is 17 hours and 45 minutes with a maximum depth of 1 1/4 inches. Okay. So, I mean, that's just a roughing path, 17 hours and 43 minutes. So now we're going to do our regular old finishing path that we would do. So we're going to come here with our finishing path, and we're going to use an 1/8 inch ball nose. And again, we'll be conservative. I'll drop this down to 60. And I'll say okay. And we're going to keep all these feed rates the same so that we see what's going on here. Yeah, I definitely want to do a climb cut, and I'm going to offset it because this is more of a circular type shape. And we'll call this 3D finish 1 is fine. All right, and I'm just going to boundary offset of 0.02 is good. Model boundary is fine. All right, let's calculate this out. Okay, here we are back with our 3D finishing. And we'll go again to preview this one. Okay, so here we are with our finished dragon. And you can see it's pretty deep. And it looks pretty good. Close of that. Now let's hover over this and see. There's another 32 hours. So if we take these and we do our time check here, we're at 50 hours and 14 minutes. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to come to our 3D roughing here. Now you remember in this one, we used a 1/4 inch bit. Let's, you know what, I'm going to write these down real quick. So we've got our first roughing is 17, 43, 24, and then our finish was 32, 30, 51. For a total of 50, 14, 15. Okay. All right. Let's get rid of those. So I'm going to delete all of them. That's fine. Come back over there. So we still got our dragon here. I'm going to take this. This time I'm going to select a 1/2 inch end mill. And again, I'm going to keep that at 60 just to make things fair. I'm going to use a 40% step over because it is, you know, such a big bit. And wait a minute, let me cancel that out. Yeah, I want to take this 1/2 inch, say okay. Up in here, I'm going to edit that to 40% step over, 60, 20. And we'll say okay. Again, model boundary, 0.04, Z level, everything else is the same. I may bump that up a bit because I'm using a 1/2 inch bit. Again, we'll leave it at 3D roughing 1. We'll calculate this out. And that went much quicker if we preview our visible. Okay, so now we're back to we've got our rough cut. All right, so we're gonna look at what that one took. That one took 4 hours and 4 minutes, so quite a big difference. 4 hours from 17 hours, but we're not done yet. So now we're going to come and we're going to do a finish tool path just like we did last time. But we are going to use a 1/2 inch ball nose. And again, we'll set that at 60 to make it fair. And let me cancel out. Shoot, I keep wanting to do that in here. Select my 1/2 inch ball nose. And I'm going to edit it up here. Make that 60. And an 8% step over. Actually, let's bump that with this. We can bump that to 10 and still be pretty good, I think. And we'll say OK. And we're going to leave that at 3D Finish 1. We will do a climb cut on this with offset because of the shape. And let's calculate out. And let's do our preview our visible. Okay, so here we are after coming in with a 1/2 inch bit, and you can see we got a lot of tool marks in there and not the details there, but we could do a lot better with the detail. All right, so let's see where we are now. Now that took almost 6.5 hours. Okay, so we got 6.5 and 4, so we're at, we'll say 10.5 hours right now. A little more. All right. Now what we're going to do, here comes the new part. We're going to do another finishing pass, but we don't want to do this whole thing. With an 1/8 inch bit, that's going to take us forever. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to Model and click on this, and we're going to go Create Component From. And you'll see down here it says Create Component From Toolpath Preview. Okay. Now, before we click on this, press down your Control key. Hold the Control key down, then click. Very important, it won't work otherwise. So we're going to hold the Control key down and then click Create Component from Toolpath Preview. Come on, there we go. And it's going to give me a little bit of a hard time, but then it works okay. So now we're going to close out of this. We're going to come back to our other side. And you'll see here that we have a toolpath preview in our modeling. So what we want to do is we're going to turn off our dragon model and see what we have here. All right, now we're going to come over to our drawing and we're going to go to our little trace bitmap bird. And we're going to trace bitmap. All right. And then what we're going to do is make sure we got our model selected. And I'm going to go in my 2D view. And I'm going to move this back. And I want to move it back till it goes all the way white. Okay, see? Okay, we're in the white. Now I'm going to use my arrow keys and I'm going to move it back toward the right till it pops up, which is right there. And for corner fit, I'm just going to hit default. For noise, I'll go ahead and hit default. Well, let's see what... Let's knock it down to 1. Now, you see all these little ones? I'm wondering, is it really worth us doing? Look at these tiny little single pixel things here. We really don't need to mess with those. So let's move this up to, we'll say 5. And then we'll preview. And that gets rid of them. That looks pretty good. We don't need to get those little tiny itty bitty things because they're so small it's not really going to make a difference. All right, and our bitmap fading we don't have to mess with. So we have this. Now we're going to make sure group vectors is not selected, and we're going to apply this. So boom, that's ours now. I'm going to close out of here. Now I'm going to select everything but my outside. I don't want my outside selected. And I'll group those just for the sake of grouping them. Come back to my modeling. I'm going to turn off that preview, turn on my dragon again. We're going to come back over here. Now we're going to do another finish toolpath. And in this one, we're going to select an 1/8 inch ball nose. And it's end mill. Where's my ball nose? There it is. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to edit. I'm going to set that back to 60. And I'm going to use an 8% step over. I'm going to say OK. And again, I'll offset raster with a climb cut. But I want to go to selected vectors here. Selected vectors. And then we'll call this 3D Finish 2 is fine. Everything else looks good. We're going to calculate this out. All right, now you'll notice we've just got just the areas around our dragon. Okay, so let's preview visible on this one. Now if we come in and look, get rid of all of our tool markings that were up in these edges. We've got lots of nice detail. Now I'm seeing still these tool marks here, so maybe for that 1/4 inch ball nose I'd knock it down to a 0.8 overpass, but I wanted to keep kind of true to what we had done in the other one. So now let's see, that one took 8 hours and 37 minutes. All right, so if we close this, and come in here and check this out. Now remember, our total of our last one was 50 hours, 14 minutes, and 15 seconds. This one, our total time is now 19 hours, 10 minutes, and 30 seconds. So even if we knock that 10% step over to an 8% step over, it's going to bump it up a little bit, but I would still say it would never go past, I don't think it would be past 22 hours, if that. So we've essentially cut our time in half by doing this. So it's a little bit of a complicated procedure, but definitely worth doing it. And again, you can only do this in Aspire. Okay, now just for some quick stuff, if let's say you had more than one model in here, let's say you had a set of models in here, you would have a bunch of them here. So all you would do everything the way you normally would do. You're going to hold the control key, press on the toolpath, create toolpath from. When you come here, you're going to turn off all of these and leave this one on. And then when after you do your vector, your bitmap trace thing, you're going to come turn this one off and then turn all of these back on. Okay, so it doesn't matter how many models you have in there, but that's how you're going to do it, and that'll give you a super nice project in about half the time. So that's why I want to do a big one, because a smaller one, you're not going to notice as much of a time difference, and you may say, oh, that's not really worth it for the extra bit changes and stuff, but your bigger carvings, huge difference. All right, so I hope this helped you out. If you have any questions, you all know how to get a hold of me. Take care, have a good night, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.